All right, so our next presenter is very near and dear to my heart. He's my brother from another mother, one of my closest friends at this point, my co-host for the Ketogenic Athlete podcast. He's a beast, and he's a gentleman, and he's an all-around great human being, Mr. Danny Vega.
Good morning. Is everybody awake? I would hope so. It's lunchtime. So I want to start this the way I start every morning, with a little bit of gratitude. And the first person I want to thank is Brian, because if it weren't for what he went through with his family, none of this would exist. I've talked about this with Carrie. I've talked about this with all our friends on KetoVangelist, and if it wasn't for him going through what he went through with his family, none of this would happen. How many lives have been changed from podcasts? How many people have found out about all the benefits of keto? So I want to thank him. I want to thank Jimmy, who was a huge, huge influence on me in the beginning when I was getting started. And he continues to be someone who I refer people to, whether it be go to ketotalk.com to listen, search for whatever you're looking for, or read Keto Clarity. So I want to thank them too. And lastly, I want to thank my wife, because she puts up with me and she drags the kids around to all these things. And she just inspires me and pushes me. So thank you. All right, so 4 important dates in my life. The first one was April 9th, 2010. And that was the day that my best friend and I thought it would be a good idea to go out on a date. And we went on a date, and it was just instantly, wow, the butterflies of being with someone with the comfort of being with your best friend. So that was pretty amazing. We said we'd take it slow, and a month later we were pregnant. So, so we took it slow. And the second date is February 4th, 2011, and that was the day after my 30th birthday. On my 30th birthday, I was sitting down in the living room writing myself a workout, because of course that's what you do on your 30th birthday. 30 exercises, 30 reps each. At the time, Maura was on the phone with insurance trying to figure stuff out for our coming baby, and she runs to the table, puts on a little piece of paper and said, "Don't go anywhere, I think my water broke." And so Desmond was considerate enough to give me my day and come on the next day. And of course, the next most important date is June 4th, 2014, and that was the day Dean was born, and he made our family complete. So really thankful for those dates. But the last date, and this date to me is right up there with every other date, is June the 12th, 2016. And that was the first day that I decided to go keto. And this presentation, that's what it's all about. What has happened because of my choice to go keto? So there we are. That's on my wife's birthday, about 2 weeks after we decided to go on our first date. The second one, that's me holding Desmond for the first time, not having any idea what I got myself into. And the third one is a perfect example of how it is with me and my boys. Desmond, 3-year-old going crazy. And then the fourth one is, of course, a picture of me shirtless, because, that's just kind of how things go. We're never wearing shirts. So that was basically about a month into me going keto. So in case you don't know, a little bit about me, I played college football at the powerhouse that is Columbia University. I was a strength and conditioning coach, for the head strength and conditioning coach for VCU basketball. I got my master's at University of Florida in human performance. I worked with basketball, tennis, golf, and that led to me getting the job at VCU. And now my current job is I raise tiny superhumans. So that's, if you know me, that's kind of one of my biggest priorities. There's 3 of them. There's education for my kids. There's raising kids that are courageous and will be men of virtue, and the third thing is nutrition. So I have various obsessions. I've been known to be a little bit obsessive over my lifetime. This picture is the one that actually got me to meet Maura. So she saw this on MySpace, and she asked a friend of both of ours who I was, and that's just kind of how we met. So I've done all these things: Muay Thai, boxing, CrossFit, powerlifting. CrossFit was an obsession, and after like 2 years of killing myself trying to be competitive, I realized that I couldn't get past a certain point because I'm kind of large. So I got into powerlifting, and I found basically my passion, and I hit the top 25 in my weight class, which was a 220 weight class, and the highlight was this video right here. And this is when I deadlifted 700 in competition for the first time. And this is one of my biggest goals that I wanted to hit here. So that's my trademark finish on a deadlift. I always smile at the end of a deadlift, you know. So powerlifting, the thing with powerlifting is the atmosphere is they love carbs. And so I was eating those carbs, I was beefing up, I was strong, but the inflammation was just getting crazy. And then in March of 2016 is when I got my MRI that told me that I had a torn meniscus. So I had to pull out of a powerlifting meet. And at that point I decided, let me work on, just feeling better, getting healthier, and just getting lean. So I did a 4-month cut, just doing a standard diet, your bodybuilding diet. And after 4 months, I was really lean, and I was really, really miserable. My wife and I had been counting the macros, and we'd had a bunch of rice and chicken after a workout, and 2 hours later, we were just miserable. So I had a friend at the gym who kept bothering me and said, you should try keto. You should try keto. Look at these keto pancakes. Look at this. Look at this. And so I didn't listen to him. And after a while, at the end of that period, when I had been at 50 grams of fat for several months, I was like, you know what? Let me go low carb. And I was like, no, low carb is not good enough. What's the craziest thing that I can do? Keto sounds insane. Let's do keto. So I started, the original reason that I started to do keto was, first of all, quality of life. The fact that I could eat bacon and not eat turkey bacon again was the most appealing thing ever, right? I heard keto gets you ripped. I mean, who doesn't want to be ripped? So that's what everybody thinks. Keto's a great weight loss, great fat loss diet. After the first week is when I really realized that it's more than this. It's way more than this. The anti-inflammatory effects, I remember walking up and down the stairs in the house we were living in at the time, and I felt like I was 80 years old. Playing on terrible turf in college, that old crappy turf, just years of powerlifting, lifting heavy weight, and I just thought this was like how it was every morning. Walking down the stairs, kind of taking like an hour just for my joints to get lubricated and warmed up. And I remember like a week into it, I felt like 10 years younger. I felt like a little ballerina going down the steps. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. The improved brain function, like when I say, it's like you took the pill in Limitless. Like your brain is buzzing with ideas. You have to stay busy. You have to do so many things because you have all this energy and you have this clarity of mind that you've never had. I was walking up a parking garage, and it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was just like, what is this? This is like, I'm usually feel like crap at this time of day, The productivity was a thing that it just added up over time. I had my best year in sales last year. I won the Pinnacle Award, which is the top 7%. They took my wife and I to Turks and Caicos, which was amazing. And then another one that I just didn't expect was the hunger control. Athletes are hungry. First of all, we have our own food, issues. We really have food issues. People think that we got it all figured out. We really don't. And it was so powerful to have control over my hunger for the first time. And it was one of the things that actually got one of my best friends, who's an elite powerlifter, to start it. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's something that can't be underestimated. Improved endurance. I was like, all of a sudden, parking at the furthest parking space because I needed to walk. I had to walk more. I had to get energy out. All of a sudden, I decided I wanted to do a half marathon. That is the most insane idea for a 220-pound football player. But I did it, and I killed it, you know? So it's really like you can have everything. I mean, I hate to say it. It's so hard to not be hyperbolic about it, but you really do get the best of everything. All right, so this is me before keto. If anybody knows the video game Doom, you know, you're just going through life. Your health is at about 59%. You're pretty low on ammo, no armor, okay? And look, you got a bloody nose, your eyes are bloodshot, but you're getting through it. You're getting through it. Everybody that I talk to, and I tell them, when you start keto, give it like 2 or 3 months, because in 3 months, you hit God mode. And when you hit God mode, your armor's at 200%, your health is at 100, you got 50 ammo, and you got all the coolest tools that you can use. You can kill life in 5 million different ways. So honestly, it's almost like every 3 months you hit a new high. We're still trying to figure out what the point of diminishing returns is. And I'll get back to that later because that's something it's not only something that you should expect from the diet, but it's something that you should work on, okay? So kind of recapping my journey, the research. The first thing I did, again, a little bit obsessive. My friend who told me about keto originally worked with Dr. Wilson, and he gave me 41 research papers. I read all of those. I read like 4 or 5 books right off the bat. 2 months into it, I reached out to this guy, Brian, and I said, hey, I really like your podcast. If you ever want to do anything with athletes, let me know. And so he says, well, I'm actually starting an athlete podcast. I'd love to interview you. And he interviewed me, and we hit it off. And after the interview, he was just like, you need to meet my co-host. And that was just pretty much a no-brainer. So we've been doing this ever since. Our mission is to explore and show all of the benefits that keto has for the athletic community, because I really do feel that although from an endurance standpoint, and we've seen from disease states all the things that keto can help, from the athletic community, we're having a lot of pushback. We're having people that still are even going by dogma and just, they're not challenging any of the assumptions that people have that have been made over the past 30, 40 years, all right? So back to what I was talking about before, the experiments and the optimization. What worked for you at the beginning of keto may not work for you later. And I think it's really important to be intentional about your whole lifestyle and look at it from a holistic point of view, not only from changing your macros around and changing your food sources and thinking about, how, you know, and trying to look at how different fats affect you, how different things affect your performance, but really just keeping an open mind. And that's been something that my wife and I have been really sensitive to, is that leave the dogma, because, you know, even within keto, you know, we have dogma. And one of the things I love about the Ketogenic Bible, which was Dr. Wilson's and Ryan Lowery's new book, is it talks about how we're all so different. And, you know, Dr. Lemansky mentioned the same thing yesterday in his biohacking. We are all different. So if there's one thing that I can encourage you guys to do, is to really learn about different approaches, try them out for a good period of time, you know, document and see how it works for you, and then you may just figure something out. See, personally, right now, I've realized that I was made to eat meat, and that's pretty much what I'm gonna do. You know, Amber had an awesome presentation yesterday, and that's kind of like where we're headed, I think. As a family, my wife, it's the same way for her. So that's where I'm at now, but maybe in the future, things will change again, but we're just keeping an open mind. The last thing I want to leave you guys with is a quote that Steve told me, you know, because Steve was talking to me here. I took a personality test, and he told me on the results that your time is limited, don't waste it living someone else's life, don't be tracked by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. And most important, follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want. Everything else is secondary. So I think that's applicable to me, but I think that's also applicable to you all. So I want to encourage you guys to just spread the message from the athletic point of view that there are performance benefits, and all you got to do is try and don't be afraid. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Oh, okay. All right.
So I've pretty much done limited weightlifting my entire life, meaning I'm just very weak and haven't done it. And do activities outside, skiing, hiking, and then just recently joined Orange Theory. So maybe I do 10 minutes of weightlifting twice a week. Previously, I just didn't have any muscle definition, but I mean, I'm doing very little, and all of a sudden I have extreme muscle definition.
That's good.
Do you know why or what keto does that makes that happen?
One of the things that I think keto does is that it puts you in an anabolic state. It really does. The ketones, perfect example was a study that Dr. Wilson did recently where they compared a standard, they put people in a deficit, bodybuilders, and one group did keto, standard keto, the other group had carb refeeds at the end of every week. And what they saw was at the end of that study, the people with the carb refeeds lost the same amount of weight as the people with keto, but the people with carb refeeds lost muscle, or lost lean mass. So what one could infer from that is that the ketones are muscle sparing and the ketones are pretty much anabolic. So the fact that you can get so much definition and so much muscle from so little effort is, I think, a testament to the fact that you can build muscle on keto, which is one of the things that people always say you can't do. You can't build muscle on keto. So people are going to ask you, maybe if you start to get really excited about it like I do, they're going to ask you, well, show me the science. Well, your science is you. So yeah, that's, I think, the what's explaining it.
Okay, thanks.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
So I've heard the All Blacks are adopting, their best version of this.
Oh, wow.
People like Chris Fromm, the Tour de France winner, is now willing to admit that he's low carb. The best triathletes are doing this. So I'm wondering, are you seeing any type of sea change where instead of you having to reach out, you don't have to give names, but now colleges and even pro sports are contacting you or Dr. Wilson, because it seems like they're so oriented towards performance and goals, and they have a better career if they win championships. So shouldn't the bottom line be what works?
Yeah, no question. I mean, there's the thing is, there's like 40 years of science behind carbohydrate as a fuel aiding performance, and we're starting to build a nice body of work when it comes to ketones and how they affect different sports and everything. We're still it's in its infancy, and there are lots of athletes that are starting to not only be, we had, UFC fighters, we have NFL players. It's still very much in its infancy. Not only do I think it's gonna happen because of the effectiveness, but especially like in contact sports, the role of ketones and exogenous ketones in head injuries and traumatic brain injuries, I think that's going to be a big role. But I think we're still at the beginning, and that's what, again, that's our mission, just to spread that message. So it works when people like yourselves are coming to these conferences and learning about it and spreading the message, because I was talking to Jackie Eberstein about this yesterday, and this is going to be a grassroots movement. The institutions, the colleges, all of those, they're dinosaurs. It took baseball, college baseball programs years to get away from, you would look at an off-season program and it would look like a bodybuilding program with some endurance training. And then they were saying that, pitchers need to run 6 miles so that they can, pitch 9 innings. It doesn't make any sense. How is running going to increase your arm, endurance and your ability to throw a ball for several hours? So it's slow, but I think eventually it's just gonna pick up. Right now, I'm seeing it like daily just grow. So yeah, it's getting there, but we still got a long way to go.
Good morning. Thanks for the presentation. It was fantastic. And so could you just take us through one day of what you physically put in your body, food-wise, coffee, whatever it is you're doing?
Yeah, I totally can. Hopefully in the future, I would be able to say, it depends. but I'm working on that because I'm a little bit obsessive. So the first thing I do is I wake up, I have 2 glasses of water, and there's a whole routine attached to it. I won't bore you with that, but then about 10 minutes later, I brew the coffee. This is gonna change this month. I'm gonna get rid of coffee, so that's gonna be weird. Let's see what happens. But I brew my coffee, and then I put about 50 grams worth of fat, 50, 60 grams worth of fat in that. And that's coming from MCT oil, butter, coconut oil. Depends on what I'm in the mood for that day. I make all types of awesome keto coffee recipes. And then I head to the gym, and I train for about an hour and a half. I hit the sauna at the end, and probably about 30 to 60 minutes after I train, I'm pretty hungry, and so I'll eat, just maybe like 12 ounces of ground beef, or I'll have a few ribeyes, or I'll have just a bunch of meat, probably slathered in butter. And then right around lunchtime, I'll have another keto coffee with just a bunch of fat in it. And then at dinner time, I'll have anywhere from a pound to a pound and a half of meat again with butter. So it'll probably be like ribeye, or now when I get back, I get to eat lamb. I get to eat all these things that I didn't get to eat this month because I was only eating beef and salmon. But basically, yeah, that's pretty much my day. I was doing a lot more, pre-workout stuff, and I'm still open to doing that. But this month I'm actually going to just really focus on making sure that anything that's not an animal, it doesn't have a mother, it's not going to go into my body. But I do get sent stuff. People are like telling me to try stuff, and I'm always willing to try stuff at the right time. I do think that nootropics are great for brain boosting. I think that caffeine, I love caffeine. But yeah, pretty much last month I didn't take a lot of the stuff that I was taking before, the magnesium and stuff, and just putting a lot of salt on my meat, and nothing, I didn't die, nothing happened. So, so that's more for me than anything, because I feel like I have to have all these things, but I'm realizing more and more that I personally don't. And if I did, if something went wrong, I would just bring it back in.
And it sounds like you also have clients and people that you're working with regularly. Do you run into people that struggle taking things like coconut oil, MCT oil, having gas, upset stomach, bloating, et cetera, things like that?
I have a buddy who runs like a training program down in Miami, and he's been doing keto for a while, and he's just got his first bottle of MCT oil, and I just basically said, look, start with a tablespoon and only go up by about half a tablespoon at a time, because if you don't, it's not gonna be good. But I haven't personally seen people that I've worked with in the past like have those issues, because I tend to warn them about stuff. So I always say, when you're getting started, 2 of the things that I say is make sure just get in all the fat you can get in, because you're basically giving your body raw material to build more ketones. And since your body doesn't know what to do with them, you're gonna pee a lot of them out. So I figure, in my opinion, you get more fat, you might as well, you may use a little bit more of that. The other thing is lots of salt, magnesium at the beginning to try to get you through that keto flu. But I try to be proactive and let them know like what to expect, and try to tell them like, it's gonna be hard, you're gonna not feel good, and try to avoid that before it happens. But some people, can't metabolize fat well, but I only know one person like that. And he didn't even try it, he just told me that he couldn't do it for that reason. So I haven't had issues, but some people are allergic to coconut, for instance, and they just got to do butter.
So, and just for clarification, like what you just said is, I heard 0 vegetable came into your diet for the last 30 days.
Yeah, no vegetables for me, no.
That show's fantastic.
No problem.
Hi, thanks so much for your presentation. My question is about the research, and you may have already answered this, but I guess if you could, if someone wanted to read about keto in the strength training world, just because there isn't as much out there, what are maybe the top 3 resources you would recommend? Maybe there's only one.
Yeah, absolutely. ASPI is the number one for sure. And the Muscle PhD. If you follow Dr. Wilson, he puts out a bunch of stuff. He puts out infographics. He has live sessions, people asking him questions. He'll do everything from supplements that may help with various different things for performance to biomechanics stuff to, and they'll always quote research. A lot of the stuff that I call upon is stuff that either they've done themselves or they've referenced. So their mission is to basically make all of that accessible for us, and in my opinion, they're accomplishing that well. But ketogenic.com has great stuff. The ketogenic athlete website, we have our articles. Robert, who you met, Keto Savage, has a bunch of good stuff. So there's info. You just gotta dig it out. It's hidden. So, but that's where I'll start. That's what I'd start. Yeah.
Okay. So we share a passion for raising tiny superhumans
Yes,
who
we
become
do.
gigantic superhumans. I know you recently started a thing for fat-fueled kids following your children in their ketogenic journey. Where would you like to see that go in terms of ketogenic athletes and children and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the first goal for the Fat Fueled Kids thing is basically trying to help parents with the nuts and bolts stuff, like the everyday stuff. First of all, how to transition them, how to approach that, and then dealing with just everyday stuff, when you're packing stuff on the go. That's just like your typical, logistics stuff. But then the other thing, I think we've talked about this, is that I want to do like performance series on when they start hitting that adolescence. How would we look at, the nutrition for a growing person who's in that transitional period, who needs a lot of food, and then how would we train them as well? I think there's still a lot of lacking info on that, and the thing is, we're gonna be discovering that on our own. So we're gonna basically, you and me and everybody else who's doing it, we're gonna basically be seeing what works and what doesn't work.